Hey guys, this is Azralynn with a quick review of Warden, Melody of the Undergrowth. The game is an action-adventure platformer that gives a good sense of nostalgia to the old-school N64 Legend of Zelda. The overall story isn't that impressive, and you play as a young child who is trying to find his father, who visits the spirit realm and sort of merges with two other children to try and protect the forest. I enjoyed the adventuring and platforming aspects of the game, and it played similar to some of the older console games from the late 1990s and early 2000s. The world is open, but there's a fair amount of loading screens when going between areas. Being able to fast travel through the Spirit Realm campfires was a neat addition and did come in quite handy. My biggest complaint about the platforming is the fall damage. It was very inconsistent. Sometimes I would jump off a tiny little ledge and take damage, but then other times I would jump from somewhere twice the height and take no damage at all. Health is shared across all three characters, but death isn't that punishing, so losing health here and there wasn't that big of a deal, but the fall damage was still a nuisance. The game also makes use of puzzles, most of which were optional, but they were a good addition to the game, and I did do as many as I could. You start off with one character, and as you progress through the game, you unlock two more characters. Each character has their own special ability, and I like being able to change characters, but I had expected a more Trine-like feel to changing between them. In Warden, the transition from one character to the next takes way too long, and it wasn't always feasible to do when enemies are nearby because you can still take damage while you're changing. For the most part, the combat was absolutely terrible, and the combat really holds the game back from its full potential. I avoided fighting as much as I could, and I would run straight through mobs and just not attack them whenever possible. The combat uses a lock-on system, which doesn't always work properly. There were some times where it would lock on a target in the back, sometimes it wouldn't lock on at all even if the mob was right in front of you, and other times there was nothing to lock on, and it would turn your camera around and try to lock on something behind you. Then, if you finally succeeded at locking on, there was sometimes a significant bug, and my weapon would go straight through the mob, dealing no damage. It was very annoying. When you lock on, you can also throw stuns at the enemy and dodge incoming attacks. The game is best played with a controller, but I played it with a mouse and keyboard anyway. The lack of control customization was a bit troublesome though, and it was awkward to dodge attacks with the default key bindings. So I gave up on dodging completely and just started jumping and stunning to avoid attacks instead. Being able to stun the mobs did alleviate some of the combat frustrations, but I still tried to avoid combat at all costs. As you fight mobs, your weapons lose their durability and eventually break. There was usually a sufficient supply of weapons available, so it wasn't a huge problem. I didn't mind the weapons breaking, but it was kind of annoying that I couldn't just drop a weapon to one character from another, or just trade them to each other. The main story of the game isn't worth completing more than once, but I really like that there was quite a few optional puzzles and collectibles to find for those who like to explore more thoroughly. The graphics really made me feel like I had been brought back in time with the vibrant colors and the style of the game. The only thing about the graphics that I didn't like was the very short draw distance. The environment looked great up close, but everything else just a bit off in the distance is blurry, and there's no option to change it. The sound effects the characters make when they're jumping and fighting are too loud and very annoying. The third character wasn't as bad, but the first two made me cringe every time I heard them. The music was really good, but I found when you enter and exit combat, it would often change abruptly. It was almost jolting at times. A smoother music transition would have been nice. The game took me about 11 hours to complete, and I was trying to find as much stuff as I could. I did get stuck at a couple parts that were bugged, but these issues have already been resolved. The developers seem to really care about the game, and I'm glad to see that they're so responsive on the discussion boards and putting out bug fixes as quickly as they can. That being said, the game does have good potential, and the nostalgia factor is definitely there, but due to the combat issues and the bugs that still need to be worked out, I would suggest waiting for more fixes or for a decent sale price. I hope this review has helped you. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and post your feedback in the comments below. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful day.